I'm right on time. What do you
Kiki,
think?
I'm impressed with your punctuality today. I'm glad to see you here on time. And thanks for coming back for Traveling Through Books. We are going to be talking about some books and videos today, but we're going to have a little flashback to when the last time we had a little adventure.
Oh, do we have to talk about that, Fifi?
We actually traveled together. Yeah.
Oh. Oh! Fifi! Watch where you're going!
Yeah, I got a little close. Lean right, Kiki, lean right. Oh, the ground. We're safe. Woo!
And we were in this area, Alaska, which is where I'm going to start with our first DVD. This is an excellent video, Into the Wild, based on the John Krakauer book, about Chris McCandless, a young gentleman who decides to toss his life away by heading out to the wilds of Alaska with like a 10-pound bag of rice. We moved to Alaska right after this happened to Chris McCandless, and the people there didn't have a lot of favorable things to say about him because he was quite unprepared, and it makes you wonder why you would go out like that. Because he had he was taken care of, he had money, but he just rebelled against it all and went out into the wild.
And you are always so prepared, Fifi. You probably could have helped him out a little bit.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have thrown my map away. But this, and just a little trivia, this bus has now been taken out. It was out in the middle of nowhere. This was an old bus used by the Fairbanks city. They put it out there, and this is where he was found later. And people kept trying to go out and see the bus. It was like a little pilgrimage to go out to see where Chris McCandless tried to go into the wild. And they had to rescue so many. The state of Alaska got tired of paying to rescue people, so they took a helicopter and moved it out. I think they're going to put it in a museum in Fairbanks. But this is an interesting story about a guy who has it all and decides he's just going to... I guess he was going to try it on his own, and it didn't work out the way he planned. But you really don't know. But it makes you think, why would you go out into the wild unprepared? Good story, though.
Well, I know if Fifi had her way, we would be flying like we did when we could travel, but I'll never get into that plane with Fifi again. I'm not even sure she had her pilot's license.
Look, it gave those tourists something to talk about, and they have a good video to show when they get home. It's all good.
Yes, as you always say, Fifi, it's all good.
It's all good.
So anyway,
So we're going to leave Alaska?
and we're going to Boston.
Here we go.
And I am going to talk about The Leisure Seeker. This is my DVD, and it is based on the book by Michael Zadurian. Wonderful book. And the DVD, it features Donald Sutherland and Helen Mirren. You can't get much better than that,
Oh,
Fifi.
Helen Mirren, yes.
And this is about John and Ella Rabina. They've been married for more than 50 years, and throughout their married life, they have taken their RV, which they refer to as the Leisure Seeker, and they want one more trip on the road. The only problem is Ella has decided to stop her cancer treatments, and John has Alzheimer's. So they are going to have to escape from their meaningful children and their doctors in order to do this. But their trip takes them from Boston all the way to Key West. And it is just wonderful how their relationship is strengthened, how they're able to do it with their medical problems, and also the people they meet along the way. So here's a shout out to going from Boston to Key West with Ella and John.
All right, Key West. Now where are we headed?
Where are we headed? Oh, are we headed back up to the Chesapeake Bay?
Well, if we're flying, I can get us there pretty
Oh.
quick. But if we have to go in a boat, I'll be sick. So let's fly. There we go.
Oh, either way, one of us is going to be sick, Fifi.
Hey, let me in. I'm sitting there.
No, Fifi, it's my turn for the window seat. Oh my gosh. So, the reason you noticed our new studio, we have moved from the history room in the Berlin Library to the young adult section. Isn't this just
It is a nice-
wonderful?
yes.
And we are going to be talking about a young adult book. And I just want to tell anyone, adults, young adults, come up to this section and you will find wonderful books, one of which I'm going to talk about today, which is Catherine Patterson's Jacob I Have Loved. It is set on Rass Island in the Chesapeake Bay, which I think is sort of modeled after Smith Island.
Ah, okay.
And you know, I have tried to go out to Smith Island 2 or 3 times, Fifi, and every time we get down there and the waves are just so high, it's just too much and I don't get on the boat and go. But
Did you not bring a cake back? Isn't that a Smith Island cake thing?
well, no, because I never got there. So I've had Smith Island cake in other places, but they say it just doesn't
Do
you
it
know.
justice unless you get it there?
Exactly.
Well, maybe soon you can travel again.
Maybe so. But anyway, the Bradshaw family is living on Rass Island. And father is a waterman, mother is a teacher. There's the grandmother who is constantly quoting from the Bible. And then there are the twins, Louise and Caroline. Caroline was born sickly, and Mrs. Bradshaw had to take her to the mainland. And that was the beginning of how Louisa just felt she was second best. So, since it is taking place during World War II, she is able to become a waterman with her father because he needs her help. And Caroline, by this time, has stayed on the mainland. She's taking music lessons because she has a beautiful voice, and from there she goes on to boarding school. And Louisa, as they call Louise, is just feeling less and less like she matters to the family.
Mm.
And it erupts into a major battle between her and her mother, because Louisa has never understood why her mother stayed on the island. She was a school teacher. She could have gone anywhere. So this is a book you want to check out and find out what happens to Louisa and the Bradshaw family.
Okay. So we'll be leaving the Chesapeake Bay. Shall we go across the pond?
Oh, I love going across the pond, Fifi.
Let's go to Sweden.
Oh, we've never been there before.
I don't want peanuts. I want Swedish fish.
Well, through a book you can go there. The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared was one of my favorite books a few years ago. It was so successful that they came out with the sequel last year, I believe. The Accidental Further Adventures of the 100-Year-Old Man. This is a feel-good book set in Sweden. The man's name is Alan. He's about to celebrate his 100th birthday, but he's living in a nursing home and he is in good health. And all of a sudden he decides this is not the way he wants it to end, so he does. He climbs out the window and heads off on all of his adventures. And I've heard this referred to several times as like a Forrest Gump kind of book, because he has all these adventures that you know couldn't really happen. I mean, you know, it's too smooth. Like, I'm sure you and I could sweet talk people into doing some of the things that happen in this book, but it just doesn't really happen like that in real life. But this book has a lot of history. He heads off on his journey and things happen. He just continues all around the country with his adventures. I mean, there's an elephant involved, for Pete's sake. I mean, you know, it really can't.
An elephant in Sweden?
Yeah, how about that one? So, lots of history. I had to, you know, get the old history book out and read up on a few things as I read about it. But it just makes you wonder what you could do if you still wanted to do it. Because he wasn't ready to give up, and he gets out and has this most excellent adventure. Not Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, but a good adventure nonetheless. Excellent book.
Well, glad you had a feel-good book
I
because
knew you were going to bring me down.
no, no. But I'm afraid we're going to Berlin, and that Berlin in Germany,
Okay, so down here.
and right down there, because this is not. Oh, I should have grabbed it before. This is not the most feel-good book, and because we felt we should have some nonfiction, as Fifi talked
This is
about.
nonfiction.
Yes, we thought we should have something in nonfiction because we know we have listeners out there who love nonfiction. So what I chose was In the Garden of Beasts by Eric Larson. Now, you're probably familiar with Eric Larson because, now what was that book he wrote about Chicago, Fifi?
The Devil in the White City. About
Yes.
the Chicago, the serial, it's a serial killer book, people.
Oh yes, I think it was the first World's Fair.
Was it 1893?
Yeah, well, I know it was something like that.
Wow.
So anyway, we're going to come a little further. This book takes place 1933 to 1937, and it is set, as you might have guessed, as Hitler has become Chancellor of Germany, and the title refers to In the Garden of the Beasts. And FDR is sending his first ambassador to Germany, and this is William Dodd. Now, he wasn't the first choice or the second choice or even the third choice. There weren't too many people who wanted to
I
take
didn't see
the...
him lining up to volunteer for that job.
Oh my gosh, there aren't too many that wanted the ambassadorship to... My mask won't stay up. I think I must be talking too much, Fifi.
I doubt
What do you
it.
think?
It's probably all that hot air you're blowing out.
I knew that was coming. I knew it. Oh, let's get back to the serious side. William Dodd, first ambassador to Hitler's Germany. He was a professor at the University of Chicago, so a very academic type man. He had been a very dear friend of Woodrow Wilson's. But anyway, Mr. Dodd, Ambassador Dodd, decides to take his family with him. His wife, Maddie, his son, Bill, and his daughter, Martha. Now, you may be familiar with Martha because she plays not only in Germany, but later on in life, she is also in Russia. But anyway, Ambassador Dodd, he comes up against the rising of Hitler's stormtroopers, the SS, and he believes in standing up, especially because Americans are being beaten by the stormtroopers who seem to be out of control. Now, the Roosevelt administration and the State Department, they are more concerned with the reparations that Germany still owes the U.S. And the U.S. also has their own immigration issues. So it's very hard for Ambassador Dodd to put forth helping the Jewish community. So he is embroiled in all this, trying to do the right thing, trying to keep his daughter Martha under control as she is out dating Nazis and Russians and just having a good time. So I tell you, but if you want to read an excellent book about 1933 to 37, when Hitler was on the rise and the American ambassador was trying to do the right thing, a lot of history here, then this book is for you.
Well, let's lighten things up with my next book as we move from Germany to England.
Always England with you.
I love
Is it a series?
Another series. I have a thing about series if you all didn't figure that out. This is a series, the first one, The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie, set in England. I got two things going on. I got an English thing, and then I'm an, what am I, Anglophile? Is that what you call me?
I do believe Anglophile.
Ooh,
Oh,
that
I do
sounds
like
so-
that
I like that.
word.
somebody's got a thing for series.
I don't know. We're going to have to look that up or create something.
Well, this happens in 1950 in the English countryside, and there's an 11-year-old girl, Flavia DeLuce, I think is the way you pronounce that. Flavia is her first name. Her mom has passed. It's her father, Flavia, and her two sisters. And of course, being the youngest, her two sisters think, you know, they don't have anything to do with her. And I can totally relate being the third child in my family to Flavia. They just exclude her and think she's just in their way all the time. So she actually has one part of the house that has a lot of chemistry. It's almost a laboratory that was left by her great uncle. So she busies herself. She mixes up the potions and things like this to put in her sister's lipstick so she'll break out. She's a little mischievous, but she also...
Oh, that does sort of sound like you, Fifi.
When her father gets in trouble, she comes to his aid. And of course, she happens to help the police with their inquiries into the bad thing that happens. But she's 11 years old, but she's like wise for her years. She's street smart. Maybe that's a good idea. Even though all she has is a bicycle to get her around. But she gets in all kinds of adventures helping to try to solve this. And she does. She's a big help. But it's much more lighthearted than, say, Kiki's book right before this. This is an excellent... I'm already on the third one in this series. And you kind of see her progress as she starts to find herself and find her way in life. It's good. Good book.
You know I always give you a hard time about your series, but I do like series too, and I think that this next one we're going to talk about is just going to, it will make you laugh out loud.
It will. It will. And to do that, we're going to travel back across the pond from England to good old North Carolina. Ooh, we're getting close to my stomping grounds.
Oh, we are. We are.
Now, this is the captain speaking. Would the lady with the big hat please sit down?
This is the Miss Julia series.
Oh.
This is the first one. And there's the first one. We're going to talk about the first one. Here's another one, the second one.
And Fifi, do you know that she has 22 books? Ann B. Ross now has 22 Miss Julia books. We have the latest one downstairs.
Yes, and that's what got us thinking about doing this series. Is the newest one just came out. We have it on our new shelf right now.
So you definitely want to start these Miss Julia books. And I think we have just about all of them, unless they're checked out, of course. But
you would want to. With this one, Miss Julia. Well, you start us off. Tell us when would you say this was happening? When was this?
Well, you know, I don't know. Maybe in the 80s, maybe?
I don't know.
Because Miss Julia Springer, has been married to Wesley Lloyd Springer for 44 years. So I figured out she's like a little above mid-60s. But she is something else. But, you know, Wesley Lloyd has kept her under wraps.
That's putting it mildly.
Yes. Do you know that they met at a church in South Carolina?
I don't. Yeah.
He was down there looking to buy another bank because he already owns one in Abbotsville. Abbotsville is near Asheville.
Oh, the Blue
yes.
Ridge Parkway.
Yes.
What a beautiful, it's a beautiful, beautiful area.
It is. And, you know, there wasn't really any romance, but she sort of fit what he wanted. And
well, that's what it was. She's what he wanted, and he just wanted somebody to boss around, and she put up with it for 44 years without putting him down. That's amazing.
I would never, you know me, bam, I would let him have it.
He was so controlling that she had actually never eaten a piece of cake and coffee with him at the breakfast table. They always had to eat in the dining room. And he wouldn't even eat an ice cream cone. He didn't want it to drip on his three-piece suit. He had to get it in the cup.
And do you know, he
I'm
used
gonna
to
eat it.
give her like $50 a week. And when Wesley Lloyd, do you remember how Wesley Lloyd passed away?
I have a visual.
I know it. He used to drive this big old Park Avenue.
New
And when
Buick. Got a new Buick.
every year, I think.
She didn't get one.
And do you know that when she didn't hear him come into the house that Thursday night, she went down and there he was hanging over the steering wheel with his eyes wide open. He'd had a major heart attack and freed Miss Julia.
So she thought. She thought she was free. She had just started to come into his money when all of a sudden a little
Hazel Marie showed up with little Lloyd.
Hazel Marie shows up with little Lloyd. So she found out her husband had another life, I guess is basically what we're saying. And what was she going to do? And you know, the part of the book made me think, what would you do? Because obviously, as you start reading, most everyone in this town knew that Lloyd had Hazel Marie on the side and had his whole other life with her on Thursdays only. Wouldn't you tell Miss Julia? Wouldn't you?
Well, I would.
I can't believe you walk around this little small town all your life and everyone knows your business, because that's the way small towns can be. Everyone knows your business. Everyone knows that he has Hazel Marie and nobody bothers to tell Miss Julia.
Oh, I didn't like growing up in a small town like that. Everybody knew my business.
Your mama knew your business before you got home from doing it.
Exactly, and I didn't want that to happen, and neither did you, Fifi.
There was no way to stop it. It was gonna happen. That was the part that bothered me the most, is how, you know, maybe, because you can almost see a little bit of Miss Julia being a little uppity, maybe, because her husband has such, he is wealthy, he owns the bank, and he has this,
Standing in the
yes,
community.
and so maybe she was a little proud, I would think. And so I guess maybe if you didn't like Miss Julia, you would have thought, well, she got a little dose of humble pie when little Lloyd shows up on the porch and she figures out her husband's been unfaithful to her. But you kind of feel sorry for her because she did everything this man said for 44 years. And just about the time you think, then he pulls the carpet out from under the grave, because then all of a sudden she's back to square one. And yeah, now that just chaps you right there when you think of how he did her wrong 2 times.
Right, and then she actually, well, Hazel Marie leaves little Lloyd with her because she needs to go find a job so that she can take care of little Lloyd. And there's Miss Julia taking little Lloyd in, and she has a real hard time at first. Well, my gosh, I'm not even sure. I just wouldn't have known what to do.
Well, Miss Julia's not really like a warm fuzzy. Like,
Yeah.
she doesn't really want to touch him. There's a coolness to her. And I think, well, probably because she lived with Lloyd Sr. all those years, he probably turned her into an iceberg. But you kind of see her begin to thaw as she sees, you know, what could be, what a family could be. I think she realizes that maybe she's just going to have to quit being so judgmental, because the deputy and the lawyer, things happen. And maybe she's going to loosen up a little bit. Maybe there's a little bit of Hazel Marie in her after all.
I think there is. And you know what? You've got to read this book because everybody wants Miss Julia. She's inherited like several million.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody wants that, from the pastor of her church to Hazel Marie's uncle, Brother Vern.
Oh, yes.
And they're just all after the money. And you've just got to read the book and see what happens. And once you do, you're going to want to read the rest of them one by one.
Because you do want to know what she's going to do, because she has these men, either her husband or the men at the church, trying to tell her what to do about everything or with her money. And I'm sure it was hard during that time in a small town in the South as a woman to be able to say, hey, I got this, I can handle this. But she has to kind of fight to stand up for herself and say, I can do this. And she had a lot of people working against her, obviously. But the one thing I have about this book that really bothers me when anyone writes about a southern state is they write in a vernacular or phonetically or however, the way that they think that we speak, like a bunch of slack-jawed yokels. And it's like, yeah, I know that word only has 2 syllables. I did not stretch it into 4 as per your book, but that's my only beef with it, is that they kind of do make you think simpletons. And we all know there's some great people have come from the South, including Miss Julia.
And Miss Fifi.
Yes.
So
It's a great book. And I've read almost the whole series. Have you? I've not read the newest one. It's on the new shelf.
Well, you know, I just got involved in other books, and so I probably haven't read the last 5 or 6, but after rereading the first one, I'm going back. I've got to finish and see what's happening to Miss Julia.
Yeah, you do see her evolve. It is good
You
to see
do.
somebody start to stand on their own or make their decisions. But I'm sure it would be hard after 44 years of not having to think what to do, because he's going to, by God, tell you what to do.
I can't imagine.
Can't imagine. No.
But you know what? You will laugh out loud.
It is. And it's easy reading. You could finish this book in 2 nights.
Right, so after you read the sort of darker one from Eric Larson, I always find I need a lighter one, and this is the perfect ones. Perfect.
Yeah. And I don't think they said y'all in there, but I wouldn't be too surprised.
So,
All right.
I guess,
Leaving North Carolina and heading
Have we-
home. Are
have we
headed home?
finished our traveling? Are we headed back?
I think we're finished for this week. I think we've traveled all we probably need to. We got our
I know, I'm
Got her.
exhausted.
got our mileage in.
Do you think Amy will pay for it all?
The map, you mean? Sure. Put that one in. We're gonna put in a request for that.
All right, well, it's so good to be here with you again, and we hope you will continue to travel with us through our books.
Until next time, I'm Fifi.
And I'm Kiki.